Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me a one in the chat. Appreciate the people joining. Shout out to B2B. The number one spot, that's his song. XL Pro. Aiken. And Regine. Thanks for joining me. You see it. Talking a little bit about FedRamp today. Appreciate those ones. Breezy with the 7. Shout out to the Breezy. 7, 8, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. Appreciate you. Let's go and get started. It's gonna be a short one. FedRamp 20 times. You know how we do it. If you got any questions, cybersecurity or tech, just put them in the chat. Man. Give me 1 second. I got my little heater in here. Let me cut it off. I am baking. Give me 1 second. We're about to get started. Once again, any questions, tech or cybersecurity, put them in the box. It got a little cold in Indiana for a minute. Last couple of days. It's slowly creeping back up, though. I think we got down in the teens a couple of nights ago. I wasn't quite ready for that, even though I know winter is coming. Once again, if you got any questions, drop them in the box. So FedRamp, you see it right there, emblem. Office of Budget and Policy, FedRamp PMO, FISMA Guidance and Technical Advisors, Technical Specification, and a JAB. Let's see. I don't think I really explained it much. So at a high level, FedRAMP is NIST 800-53 in the cloud. It was a way so the federal government can review cloud and software. And once they give it the FedRAMP stamp of approval, anybody can use it. You don't have to do another risk analysis. That software or cloud has been approved for federal work. Right. So that's kind of what FedRAMP was. Because what originally happened is everybody did a risk assessment, everybody did a review, everybody kept sending cloud vendors 200-word questionnaires. So they wanted to give it kind of like FedRAMP stamp of approval. And we actually go out to the website and look. So then once they got cloud and software, so once they give you their good seal of approval, then that software can be used for federal work. Now, federal has different levels of security, so you got to make sure if it's high or moderate or low. But once again, that package tells you what level of data classification it could be used for. So um, everybody knows this is the standard 20 families for NIST 800-53. So these were used to get an ATO, an authority to operate for that FedRAMP. If you go out there and look, there's a lot of consultancies that do FedRAMP work. So I've actually worked for a couple of them. So some of them are called 3POs. And a lot of times I work for federal clients that's going to give work to the 3PO, meaning we're going to do an internal assessments, make sure they're up to speed. The vendor I was working for charged a lot less than a 3PAO to get them up to speed to do that approval and get ready for assessments. So what is FedRamp 20 times? It's the next generation overhaul of federal cloud authorization program in FedRamp. FedRamp stands for, you see it right there, Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program. FedRamp original role provides standardized reusable framework. We was just talking about that. Authorized continuous monitoring cloud service for use by federal agencies. It was announced in March 2024 we just saw that in the image, the GSA, General Service Administration. The 20-time brand signals an accelerate 20 times, evolved for cloud native automation driven and a simpler process. Right. So long story short is FedRAMP was a heavy lift. So now they're trying to figure out how can you get authorized or certified a lot quicker. To be honest, 20 times quicker. So that's kind of what this part of FedRAMP is. It also is supposed to make it simpler to automate application and validation of the FedRAMP security requirements. 80% of requirements will be automated validation without the need to write a single word about how it works, compared to 100% of current controls requiring narrative explanation. Right. So we kind of been touching on that. I've been doing AWS config, and it'll go through and scan your infrastructure and give you a score to see if you were FedRAMP approved to do that. So automation, I guess, is the future. So once again, trying to make it easier. Technical controls will make sense and match standard configuration choices. Industry will provide solutions and competition for various business needs with FedRAMP aligning standards. So once again, like anything, I think FedRAMP was the standard. Now they're just trying to make it easier for you to get your software approved or be able to use software. So I think once again, FedRAMP is trying to get vendors in their process, in their program, and actually get it done quicker, because FedRAMP can be expensive, and a lot of times it can take up to a year to get an ATO approved to do federal work. So once again, the FedRAMP 20 times is trying to speed it up to that order of magnitude. leveraging existing industry investments in security by inheriting best-in-class commercial security frameworks. New documentation required for a framework will reduce to a few pages if company provides existing security policies, change management policies, and other documentation. And we've been kind of talking about that. Your policies and procedures should already be done in the old FedRAMP, right? Your plans, your standard 5 plans, incident response, configuration management, Coop. Those are kind of some of your standard plans you should have already done. One thing they did was community working groups will design optional templates that can be modified to company to provide foundation for remaining requirements for approval of FedRAMP. We're going to go look at some of those templates. I like to use those in real life when people ask me for certain things. A lot of times I just actually go pull the FedRAMP templates down, and I usually cut them down because they're really large for federal clients. So most of the times I'm doing smaller agencies or smaller companies, so I usually just kind of pare it down. But it's a great start. Industry should provide tools for document complex technical systems by code, not narrative, to meet the FedRAMP standards. Right. So now we're doing infrastructure as code, code is code, right? So um, serverless infrastructure, meaning the cloud vendor spins up the infrastructure underneath. Then, once again, share responsibility. They will be responsible for that paperwork. They will be responsible for kind of securing it or giving you the services to help you secure it. Big thing is continuous monitoring security decisions using a simple hands-off approach. Industry partners will provide continuous standardized machine readable validation. Uh, Automated enforcement by security by design principles will prevent mistakes or bad decisions. That sounds cool. Community working groups will collaborate with FedRAMP to ensure consistent across industry perspective. Right. So continuous monitoring means a lot of times we have compliance scanning, usually done with Rapid7, Nexus, or QualSys, or a lot of times AWS has their scanner and Azure has their scanner. But you continuously scanning because if a developer takes some encryption off, misconfigure a key, takes um, encryption off a database at rest, the scanner would automatically pick that up. So that's kind of where that continuous monitoring happens. So hopefully you're scanning every day or part of the day or scanning your gold image. So once again, what would that look like? And once again, ConMon, that's the abbreviation for that's real big in FedRAMP, CMC, HIPAA, and High Trust. How do you continuously monitor to make sure you stay secure, or if somebody puts out a major release and breaks some security, you would automatically know. Because a lot of times somebody misconfigures something on a release and you won't know till you hack. So once again, continuous monitoring is a big thing in kind of this release of the compliance. So what is FedRAMP times 20 trying to do? Build trust between the industry and federal agencies by leaning into the direct relationship between the provider and customers. The CSP, cloud service provider, would interact directly over established business channels to review and maintain security. We actually did a review on that. AWS has their vendor insight, and they're actually checking the vendor for security, privacy to make sure their SLAs are in their products that they're selling inside marketplace. So I think that's where you're actually seeing it more. The industry trade groups can band together to establish shared procedures for best of them companies sit alone, as long as the minimum requirements set by FedRAMP are met. Businesses will maintain control of the IP, intellectual property, and make their own decisions on how it can be shared. A lot of times, once again, the cloud vendors gives you a certain SaaS service to do ConMon, continuous monitoring, set up your encryption, validate that you're using FIPS type encryption. Shout out to Farron Perry for joining us. So once again, doing that FedRAMP, doing that federal work, how can you get, I guess, 20 times faster? So that's what FedRAMP is trying to accomplish. I think it's actually a great goal for them to try to get to because once again, it's a heavy lift and trying to speed that up. Enable rapid continuous innovation without artificial checkpoints to halt the process. Implement enforcement systems that ensure security is consistent. Place annual assessment will be replaced by automated checks. So yeah, everything in NIST and FedRAMP is an annual assessment, annual check. So once again, you hopefully want to automate that so you won't have to do that yearly check. And usually, once again, you'd be doing it weekly at the latest, or so. Significant changes that are followed approve established business process won't require additional oversight. Industry would help. FedRAMP would establish clear, consistent guidelines for making big changes that level the playing field between companies without ghost regulation. So once again, they're trying to do a lot of automated checks, automated bills saying, I'm doing this type of software or I'm buying this type of software. The infrastructure needs to be set up as X, right? We're doing a high trust for some HIPAA work for a hospital. I guess part of it's life or death. So what checks can you do without once again going through this build and annual assessment, right? It can be brutal. I used to do it for a client and meet with the cloud infrastructure team, meet with the programmers. Shout out to my man Larry for joining. Salute to be the GRC Pro. If you're not, they probably people facts. If it ain't 53, it's not for me. But so yeah, I was actually in Aspire's LinkedIn, and so everybody's really kind of pivoting to CMMC a little bit. So I guess I might need to pivot on over to CMMC with the frown on my face. But once again, FedRAMP trying to get you to spin up 20 times faster. I think we'll go to their website at the end because we kind of flowing through and I have many slides. So we'll go through the website and kind of look at some of their templates. Once again, that's kind of one of my hidden gems I like to tell people when I'm looking for templates and policies and procedure. FedRamp.gov. You got to be ready to cut them down because they be huge. So shout out to those government templates. I think my 10 and 9 slides are the same. Okay, for the first pilot that they're running on for FedRAMP 20 times, the pilot is testing a new approach for FedRAMP low authorization. Shout out to Motown. So once again, FedRAMP, they're doing a pilot project. We're trying to get to more automation, less, I guess, brute force. We've been talking about using AWS services, so we could definitely be using more automation. I got a ton of AWS config, AWS system manager, AWS assessment manager. So AWS gives you a ton of services to help you with that automation. So we're definitely ahead of the game. But once again, uh, low authorization using the key security indicators and machine readable validation and validate the security capabilities expected from your cloud vendor using the federal government. Cool thing is I got a lot of slides. You can pick certain data centers that are FedRAMP approved. In AWS, they're East and West, and their Gov data centers are specifically set up to do government work. Right? So people know I do a lot of IRS work. An IRS security requirement says you have to be in a FedRAMP data center. Cool thing is AWS has them, Azure has them, and I know Google has them. Rackspace has them, Oracle has them. So a lot of people are trying to get that federal money. So a lot of people have federal data centers. Once again, we'll go to FedRAMP.gov at the end and kind of look at those. So once again, if you got any questions, cybersecurity or tech, just put them in the box. Just kind of going over FedRAMP 20 times. something new. Once again, we were ahead of the curve. We was trying to get to that automation. Then at the end, I show you what AWS service can help you with that automation that FedRAMP is trying to set up. The pilot project is open to the public. Any cloud native SaaS provider may participate. Any agency sponsor is needed. No agency sponsor needed. That's cool. So if you got something you were trying to get it into the pipeline, a lot of times the government has to invite you to come into FedRAMP before they reviewing your software. Meaning some federal agency likes your software and want to use it, so they would invite you into the FedRAMP program. But this time it says you don't need an agency sponsor. Qualifying cloud services offer the successful complete phase one, which will receive a 12-month FedRAMP Low program authorization and will be prioritized for the FedRAMP Moderate program in phase two. So they're going to give you a low, right, which is, I don't know, I think 60 or 70 checks. It wasn't a ton. But then the moderate, that's when you're going to jump up to, a couple hundred. Then really, if you roll up to all, moderate, you might be at 1,000 checks. So once again, in phase one, that's the authorization process began with cloud service submit to your initial 20 times. Participants should expect multiple step collaboration with additional work required to continue. You get your initial submission, your initial review, your collaborative review, and your congrats FedRAMP in process package. Right? So your initial submission, you submit your comprehensive package that meets the submission requirements. Shout out to Aspire. We were talking about that for CMC. You got your SXP. Here's your policies, your procedures, and your plans. Here's your network diagram. Here's your system boundaries. Here we have protected areas. So what does that look like from your architectural diagram, right? That's your kind of initial review and package to see if you can move forward. Collaborative review, FedRAMP hosts a technical discussion with you and your 3PO to dig into the package in more detail, learn about your approach, and get feedback and process from you and your 3PO. A lot of times they have a list of third-party assessors. You pick one of them, they charge a lot of money. But they'll help you get through the process, right? So a lot of times you won't even get an initial review if you don't pass your 3PAOs. A lot of times they give you an initial assessment to see if you're even ready to undertake something that big. So that's the cool thing. And once you get into the game, the GRC game, and the internal, external audits, you're just going over like everything. Shout out to once again Aspire. They did a walkthrough yesterday at a high level of the CMC. Onboarding, offboarding. We were talking about printers and devices, right? It's a big heavy lift of what that would look like. So, and what that would mean. The congrats, FedRAMP. If your package qualifies, your cloud service providers listed on the FedRAMP marketplace. As in process, we're going to go look at the marketplace inside FedRAMP and see. Look at my favorite one, AWS and Azure. We look at a couple of those to see kind of what's going on. The other part of the phase one, you get your final authorization submission. You submit a complete authorization package that meets all the outstanding requirements. Comprehensive review and exercise. The FedRAMP review team conducts further discussion with you and your 3PO to include a tabletop exercise. A lot of times the tabletop is going to talk about your COOP and your DR plan. If you have an incident response, what that look like. I've done about 2 or 3 videos kind of walking through what an incident response exercise would look like. Congrats, once again, your FedRAMP was authorized. If your package qualifies, once again, you get in the marketplace. Then once again, you will get your ongoing authorization. Continuous monitoring, we were talking about that, regular reporting. So you have to give, once again, your scans and your stuff on a regular cadence to them to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Your authorization package will need to be updated in the final FedRamp low requirements within 12 months. You can move on to phase two. We're about to look through that for the monitor. So the question is, why are we really talking about that? I want people to get a feel for when you're doing an internal, external audit, the flow of the process, your initial SSP, your authorization, you combining communication with your outside auditor, your 3PAO, your third party assessor. What does that feel like? And once again, Larry knows you got to give about 1,000 pages of paperwork, all right? But once again, they trying to 20 times is trying to automate a lot of that, so it won't be such a brute force. I've been kind of talking about how you would automate your SSP, because that's really the heavy lift in all of this. Once again, when I did one, it was like 600 pages. Once again, I think they want to trim that down a lot, and once again, allow that be automated, like your architectural diagrams. You should be able to scan your network, and you should be able to come out and say, these are my workstation laptop devices. Here's my cloud part of that. This is what I have secured. We talk a lot about zero trust. Here's our subnets and how they protect it. And they have protected zones where your web server can only talk to your app server. Your app server can only talk to your database. Your DBAs and your SAs, privileged users, they got to go through VDI, to get into your setting. But once again, from a package standpoint, how do you automate that to make it go quicker? It depends on the type of audit. If you're doing a FISMA or FedRAMP, it could take a year, depending on where you at, your level of maturity. A lot of times it takes a year because setting up to do your initial SSPs, bro. A lot of times when you first do it, I'll let Larry chime in on that. A lot of times they're not using the right encryption, which is FIPS 140-2, which has to be approved by the government. So a lot of times when you go through, you got to, like I said, when I did my first one, we were supposed to have 2 Cisco routers. But my boss was like, hey, we ain't spend another $250,000 on a physical router. So what does that look like? All right, our subnets, they were too broad, and we were commingling different federal agencies. So we had to re-subnet our whole kind of infrastructure, which, Ty, that's a beast. All right. So now you're trying to control your network. Now, every IP you have to document and show how it's approved, what it's for, what software is using it. So then a lot of times I was on a government project. Those network protocols were in there for 15 years. They didn't know what each protocol was used for. So going back and trying to document that alone took us like 3 months. Because you're scared if you're going to cut it off, you're going to break something. So now you're trying to figure out what it's for, what software is using it, what client's trying to use it. So that's why it takes so long, Ty. A lot of times you just kind of, because most times when you get there, you got a lot of technical debt. So just trying to work through that technical debt could be brutal. Once again, phase two, we talk about the moderate. Once again, we're exploring an automated based approach for assessment, validation, and security decisions made by the cloud service providers seeking FedRAMP and widely used by the federal government. Phase two is not open to the public. You have to be invited. So you get, phase one, you could go in, but then, you got to meet certain criteria to move to phase two. Once again, it's not open to the public, will be strictly limited to optimize delivery of the new services for formal authorization. The pilot will continue to be iterative and transparent, meaning you finding stuff and you trying to fix it on the fly. Two is, you trying to not do too much. On phase two, pilot is completed. FedRAMP will move to a more proprietary wide-scale release in 2026 for standard 20 time phase three and open to 20 times low and 20 time moderate authorization to be for the public in phase four. And I just pulled this out of the document for the, you see the authorization requirement for phase two. So how the requirements recommendation is implemented, sharing plans to implement requirements and recommendation within the next 6 months. So that show you right there, Ty. We've been developing in phase one. Now they want another next 6 months for phase two. So these could be a long time. Explaining the valid reason behind not implementing recommendations and some of the finalized standards, minimum assessment standards, their document, key security indicators, at least 7% of the KSI must be addressed via automated checks, significant changes notification, authorization of data and sharing standards, and vulnerability detection and response standards, right? So those are some of the documents. And most companies, unless they're mature, they don't they don't really have key security indicators. I work with a lot of big companies. Man, we just trying to do basic stuff, right? So we just trying to get our defender scans in there, our compliance scans in there out of purview to kind of figure out there. So we don't really be looking for key indicators yet, right? But once again, those are mature companies. Authorization data and sharing standards. So what's your package to that? A lot of times we did, and I did that in my last video, MOUs and ISAs, memorandum of understanding between the other division and companies. How are we going to exchange the file? How are we going to do encryption? How are we going to do security? How are we going to do if you're down, right? How are we going to, if we need a DR, right? Because a lot of times it's multiple agencies and, and multiple divisions of big companies, right? And sometimes they don't play nice together, right? So we need those MOUs to make sure everybody understands what we need to do. And if something happens, who gonna get blamed because we got to document it, right? So once again, those are those standards, and we go out there and look at some of those documentation. Here's some other the built around machine learning. Once again, authorization data standards, FedRamp definitions. Once again, minimum security. So that shows you the dates on there. The cool thing is all those documents are new and all those documents are up to date. And shout out to CMC. I would use these a lot of times if I was doing some CMMC work. Once again, talking about the phase two, we continue to explore automation-based approach. But you got to remember, though, this is really a proof of concept. They trying to shift it to the next, I guess, level of FedRAMP to make it more responsive. Once again, phase two is not open to the public. And once phase two is completed, FedRAMP will move once again to the wide scale release. Here's some the automation with AWS that we kind of been talking about on this channel, trying to get ready for the future. So configuration and drip detection, you will use AWS config and AWS conformance pack. Once again, I did some videos on that. Security control automation, control as code. Once again, you would do security hub and audit manager. Identity and access governance. We'll use the AI identity center, access analysis, and cloud formation guard. But once again, those are the NIST requirements, and those are the AWS tools that we will use to help us get to, I think, what was it, 80% automation, and that's what you really want to get to. Right? A lot of times people talk about AI taking jobs. I don't think we're there quite yet, but what we're doing, I think, is AWS, Azure, and Google are giving you tools where you don't need as many people. When I was at DoD, I think our web team was 6 people. I was talking to a guy. We think, man, I think I could do that almost by myself, right? Because you got auto scaling groups. If a server goes down, you can it has bad health. You can spin up another one. In the old days, you had to manually spin that stuff up, right? We had VMware was kind of getting to it, but there's a lot more things than two now with your Splunk and your seams. You can automatically see a error or something that looks funny. You can go back and have it remediated. Like somebody took the encryption off a database, you can spin it up and say, at night, restart the database, put the encryption keys back on, lock the encryption key so nobody take it off and spin back up. You don't even have to touch it, right? So I think that's where we're trying to get to. Yeah, FedRamp is does have a certification, and that's kind of what they were talking about here in the 20 times. If you look at phase one, that's what they're kind of uh, getting to. But no, yeah, FedRamp has a certification. It's brutal. I help people with do that. So yeah, you will see it. Congrats, FedRamp authorized. That's your certification. If your package qualifies your cloud services listed on FedRamp Marketplace as a FedRamp low. So part of FedRamp is when you do your package, they're going to certify with your 3PO, which is your third party assessor. So that's kind of where it's at. So, but yeah, so FedRamp, you do get an ATO, but it's brutal to get one. Um, and mostly big companies do that. Let's see if I can find that. Let's see if I here if you look at the top, this is FedRAMP.gov. Let me get over here. So if you go to the marketplace, these are the people that, like Ty said, has a certification already. Let's see if it's showing up okay. Yep. So if you look, there's a total of 471 authorized services. Those are the people that actually passed. If you look at products, everybody know I love AWS, so let's put them in there. Make it a little bigger for the old people, aka me. So if you look, it says here AWS FedRAMP Service USA East and West. So AWS has a ton of regions, but on the East region and the West region is for FedRAMP authorized work. So we're gonna, of course, that put it in another screen. So let me go share that other screen that opened up. Uh, So this is the East and West. Once again, those data centers we were talking about. Oh, did I do that? Okay, yeah. Want to make sure you're looking. Yeah, so if we look to the side, like Ty was asking, it was in process in 2012. It was officially authorized in 2013, meaning they submitted their package and it was accepted. And that's when they got their certification. If you look at their details, authorized entity review in 2012, FedRAMP authorized in 2013, annual assessment they just had in 11/13. That's 2 days from now, so they in the future. I don't know. Maybe they need to put the year there, so maybe that's 11/20/13. Independent assessor was co-fire. Shout out to them. Um, these are other products that sits on top of AWS's data center. So right, so these products are actually software products that sits in their data center. So their data center right is to share responsibility, but these particular products are using that service, which is a ton. That's what you want to do. You want to use their data center because that stuff they're responsible for. Some of the big dogs in here, Cisco, uh, Marquee. I forgot. I can't pronounce it. Marquee. So there's a ton of WordPress, boo. I'm not a big WordPress guy. Um, let's see. Atlassian, their government cloud. Blackboard, I should do that. But yeah, all the big guys are in their East and West data center. CyberArk, Databricks. Shout out to my man B2B. The data engineering got the Databricks rocking. So, but once again, it's a ton of DocuSigns in there. So a lot of companies are going to be using their data center, either East and West or that. But shout out to top. That's when it's showing you when they were approved, who was that 3PAO out, and what's once again what's this. And this right here shows you the government agencies that are in AWS Cloud, which of course is a ton. Shout out to Coast Guard. Shout out to SBA, Social Security Office, Health and Research, Bureau of Trust Funds, Department of Agriculture, Commerce, Education, Health and Hospital. Shout out to HIPAA. But those are all the agencies that are using it, right? So that's kind of the cool thing is you can kind of look at the package. And two is if you're respected enough, I've actually had them email me the package. which I thought was weird. So I was doing a review for a state. I didn't work at a federal government, but we were reviewing it as a state to possibly use it. Once again, the IRS said we had to be in a FedRamp data center, so it kind of all plays together. But when I was talking to that package, they said FedRamp couldn't send it to me because I'm not a FedRamp. But they just reached out and said, dude, if you reach out to them, it's their package. They can email you the package. We don't care, which I thought was a bit of a security hole, to be honest. But they sent it to me, and I got to look at 1,100 pages of security requirements. Right? So, but once again, I forgot who it was. It was super detailed. And once again, I really enjoy it. I'm kind of worried about looking at architectural documents like that. But let's scroll back up to the top real quick. Once again, we ask as a package, you see there a package request form. So once again, if I'm a federal agency, I can request the package from FedRamp.com. Once again, since I didn't work for a federal company, the company sent it to me. Once again, reuse, authorization, shows you when it was authorized, showed you the annual assessment, showed you who the 3PL co-fires big time, shows you the type of models, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, right? Infrastructure, platform, and software as a service. It's moderate level. So if you were doing nuclear codes, you couldn't put it in there. But once again, FedRAMP is trying to move to the 20 times to make it more, to use more automation and quicker releases to get your packages turned around. Hopefully that will be less dollars. So let's talk about Azure. I need to start putting my foot in Azure a little bit, putting my toe in there, getting a little better with that Microsoft right there. You see Microsoft right there, commercial cloud. They got their high, then they got their moderate, then they got their other high. Once again, these are the data centers you can use on Azure. Let's shout out to my man. Let me drop the link. Shout out to B2B. He's more of a, it seems to be more of a Google guy than me. So let's see if Google's in there real quick. See, I need to back the other one up. Let's reshare the other one. Just gonna drop the link if anybody wants to come up. We just kind of wrapping down, looking at FedRAMP packages. Let's look at, there's Azure. Hopefully you can see that. Let's get down to Azure. Did I do? It's probably the, oh, it's on the Microsoft. So once again, you see their data centers. They have high, moderate, and high. Once again, who's using it, the access to it. So a lot of times when people ask me if it's FedRAMP approved, this is the first place I come, because a lot of times if I'm doing government work, I want you to have that FedRAMP approval. So I'm gonna see if you're in here. Two is you don't have to be authorized. You could be in process. You see right there, or a bus, second from the bottom. They're in process, meaning their paperwork's being reviewed. A lot of times, if you're in process, if we're looking at your software, I probably would go ahead, depending on the level classification, just go ahead and accept you. Because if you're already in there, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna spend the money to make sure you get your certification, and that's half the battle. To be, if we looked at it, you have to have a certain initial things done to be accepted to be in process, like your policies and procedures, your plan. You probably got an SSP already done. So from a software standpoint, for me, that's a big lift. So a lot of times, even if you're not yet authorized, if you're in process, a lot of times we'd be grading. If you authorize, that'll be 10 points. If you're in process, I'll probably give you 7 or 8 points. Depending on, a lot of times, once again, if I could look at your package, see where you at. A lot of times they put findings and things they need you to fix. So if I could see your poem to see how many findings or issues you have, once again, we can make a decision there. Once again, for me, if you're in process, a lot of times, I'm gonna go ahead, and that's from a risk assessment standpoint, that's huge for me. You get a lot of points on there. Even if you fail, once again, you in the process, so you're working on it. So once again, that's big. So once again, I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. Let's go back to the original. Oh, I should have put some. There it is. 80% of requirements, we're trying to get that to be automated validation, right? So we want to hopefully speed up the process of FedRAMP. So a lot of times I like to read stuff like this because it's kind of telling me what we need to be doing for automation, what they're looking for. And once again, we were talking about a lot of stuff like this before, so it's not a surprise. But once again, what are they looking for? What do they want to have you do? Let's see. Once again, put any questions in the box. Cybersecurity. Let's look at this in the FedRAMP real quick. The FAQ, I thought, let's see what they had in there. See if anything's out. What happens to the current process? The PMO board will not provide update technical assistance guidance for implementation of R5 baseline after March 2025. Ooh, that's now. That's great. Uh, Once again, FedRAMP is an initiative of partners with industry to build cloud native continuous security assessments. Will new cloud service provider need an agency sponsors? Was submitting both documentation automated validation directly to FedRAMP before the cloud service provider offering is added to the marketplace for hundreds of agencies to choose from. Once in the marketplace, it will be up to the agency using cloud service authoring to authorize operations of the service as usual. Once again, it's. I guess I didn't know they were shutting down other processes. Like here, the FedRAMP PMO board will not provide update technical assistance or guidance for implementation of the Red 5. So basically, they're just telling you they want you to get to the automation part. The PMO will stop performing in-depth triple checks reviews of the FedRAMP package after 2025. The PMO will halt the limited centralized continuous monitoring from the JAB for R5 cloud service offering after March 2025. So I guess I didn't know they were really switching that quick, to be honest. So that's why we do these stuff so we can learn. I was like, oh, they're not doing that there in March 2025. But once again, we were talking about automation on the channel for a minute. So that kind of makes it interesting. Once again, here's the link if anybody wants to join. I'm just going to hang on a little bit to see if anybody has any questions. Shout out to Larry, the PMO. FedRAMP PMO's like, we ain't doing that anymore. So shout out to the PMO office. We were talking about for big agencies. A lot of times PMO is driving the projects. Right? A lot of times when I work for bigger agencies, I end up reporting to people in the PMO because they really got the project plans of dependencies, when stuff should fix, and when stuff is due. Right. So a lot of times I just go through there, and a lot of times they say, "PBO, hurry up! We need this stuff completed." Like, hey, yeah, ease up on me, ease up on me. But now, shout out to the PMOs. Shout out to security expert. Once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to join me. I appreciate everybody joining me. Once again, I just want to touch on it. I guess once again, I didn't know they were. I guess I didn't know they were stopping part of the original FedRAMP. FedRAMP. But once again, Just kind of going through, making sure we up to date on FedRamp, which is this 800-53 in the cloud. Um, what are those processes and procedures? A lot of times when we do those, we can take those processes to a client or to our corporations we're working for. Once again, they got the templates, automation, and a lot of times too, the companies we work for, they're trying to get FedRAMP certified or HIPAA High Trust, or I do a lot of IRS Pub 1075 work. So all of those kind of adds up and gets put into there. So that's kind of what's kind of going on there. So oh, let's see. Oh shit, that's a um hundreds of steps really. They have bigger steps, but once you look into your SSP, there are 20 security families. So in those 20 security families, you're gonna have multiple steps in there. So you're gonna have hundreds. Like you have AC access control, or you do enter ID, or you using AFDS, or you using Active Directory on prem. So you got to document that, figure out that. Now you got on prem and in the cloud. So if AWS, do I have to go through your Active Directory to get my roles and responsibilities? Or you just keeping two different you just log in, one for on prem and one for in the cloud, right? Then you have supply chain. So it's hundreds of steps in there. I probably need to count them, but I know there's 20 security families. So each one of those families, you're gonna have procedures. A couple of them gonna have plans. Then once again, we're talking about automation, configuration management. So yeah, hundreds of steps in there. Let's see. Is it usually all down for us? It's usually all top down for us. Usually who's part of the highest office and who controlling the budget. Oh, you 100%. Whoever has the money for the budget controls everything. No, no, you correct. The problem though, Larry, is a lot of times, especially bigger project, you have dependencies. So if somebody doesn't get their stuff done right, it doesn't flow down. So keeping track of those dependencies can be brutal. Once again, I was on a government project in a whole different billing system, and my 14 told me to go help another team. I'm like, I went over there. I don't think the lady was happy. She's like, "Who paying you?" I was like, "Hey, Big Boss told me to come over here and help y'all. Y'all need to talk about that." But now those dependencies, a lot of times, that's how I got met a few people. Once again, I was doing some Java and Oracle, and they were sending me to other teams to help them. So, because those dependency layers, if those dependencies start, not happening or not getting finished properly, you're going to be still in shift left. You're going to be going right to span timelines, and it's going to cost you more. So, I think especially on those big projects, those dependencies be rough. My boss don't play about missing no time, no timelines. So we were really humping to make sure we met all our timelines. Because once again, those dependencies can start having ripple effects, and people start getting caught up into the big boys' office when those dependencies. Because I worked on a $500 million project, man. It was crazy. So I had a little piece. I ain't gonna like overshadow it, but once I figured out what the whole budget was, I was like, oh my god. So yeah, the big boy projects. It's usually my job as a PM, tracking out a PM, making sure nothing's forgot. Yeah, that's the thing I think. Because a lot of times when you work for companies, your dependencies aren't you controlling all those dependencies. But when you work on big government projects, we had programmers in 5 different states. Each one of them had a different part of the project, and they had dependencies, and it was crazy. Then we had other dependencies for out of DoD. So so yeah, those dependencies I learned, I was like, oh my god. So because a lot of times I just put my head down and do my own little part, but they like, you can't do that unless this gets finished, right? So like you said, it'll flow down from the top down, but the dependencies on those big complicated projects, and you start spending 100 million plus, it start getting crazy. Oh no, facts, facts, facts. That's a good statement. Developers don't care about security. Security don't care about user experience, and user experiences don't care about the developers. So, yeah, that's kind of I was lucky where my boss was computer literate. Oh, you heard cats. That's definitely true. I was see. Nah, facts, facts, and they don't care till they get hacked. Facts on that. So the question is, I think we're getting a little better because people are talking about. We saw it in there. Secure coding, secure development. A lot of times, the projects I worked on, they said this is the template because if you do it this way, you're using the right security, you're using the right authentication, authorization. We call it CSF, common service functions. So you would have to use these functions, and they would automatically lock down the security. So when we did our security review, we used to call it DUT, developer unit test. If you wasn't using the right modules, you would get a stern a stern talking to, right? But once again, I think a lot of companies are kind of missing out on it because I always tell people, shout out to Study GRC, security is a cost. Features make money. All right. So people want to do features, and when you do them fast, a lot of times you don't do them securely, right? But people pay for features. People don't pay security, right? They assume this built in, or once again, we have common service functions. So when we use it, we're doing it correctly, or hopefully the architecture is putting that security in by development, security by code, security by infrastructure. Infrastructure is code, so all that security is built in. But I think that's something we still struggle with because most people are just trying to get out the new feature. Because that's what makes money. You're trying to get more users so you can get to that magic number. You get the VC money. Then you want to go back and put in security because you try to get some government work, right? So that's kind of how I usually work on the back end where it's an afterthought. But hopefully, I think we should be hopefully doing better. My fault. PBO tired. Hopefully doing better. Hopefully with that code, but that's something we struggle with. Application security, that's really how I got kind of in the game. Because I was doing Java Oracle and doing the application security, doing the STIGs inside there. So that's really just being comfortable with that. So Larry says, lucky the government see policy trumps all. So as long as you have policies backing me, I can usually lead the project where it needs to go. But everyone would kick and scream. Oh, facts, man. Facts. Facts. I've been on those. I try to be ahead of the line so I won't be causing too many issues. But um I did a video of that. I think the application checklist inside Stigs was 250 application checks. Are you doing APIs? How are you connected to the database? Are you doing encryption at rest and in transit? All right. So a lot of that developer needs to check or make sure that's happening. So usually you check it on two ends. Is the developer calling it correctly? Then the database administrator, is he using a proper encryption in a database so the developer can even call it, right? So that's when you talk about those big projects and talking about security at a level and what would that look like in real life, which could be that it could be tough. Like Larry said, man, you heard cat. Once again, I dropped the link if anybody want to come up. I'm just gonna kind of wrap it on up. Keep dropping your questions in there. Trying to get our smooth hour in before I get back into lab in a day. Lab every day. Shout out to my man Dewan. We're trying to lab every day. Make it happen. But yeah, that's what we were talking about, the 20 times. Once again, I guess I didn't know it was coming into effect so quickly. So PBO didn't know that. So shout out to PBO. Learn something every day. So I need to start putting 20 times out there. I'm a 20 times speed. No, I'm joking. I ain't gonna get too crazy with it, but let's see. Oh, that's what we're see. But yeah, hopefully. But I've had policies and procedures, and the CTO pushed back, man. And so they needed to get something out. We were gonna get paid for that particular feature. it wasn't quite secure as I would like it, but hey, it is what it is. Shout out to B2B. I think you're on mute on your side, B2B.
Hey, PBO, can you hear me?
I can. Crystal clear.
How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right, man. I see you jogging with the Atlanta Mirror. I thought I saw you.
Yeah, man, that was a good experience. He's fast. He is a fast guy.
Oh, that's
He was talking
cool.
about he was just jogging. I was like, nah, I was full blown running trying to keep up with him.
Hey, that's cool, man. That is cool.
Yeah, man. I was watching a little bit. I kind of was in another call at the same time, but
Hmm.
I was I was like kind of listening in, and I wanted to talk to you about um some of the things that you said to me before on some of the
Hmm.
previous live streams. I kind of brought up in my most recent uh speech at this
Okay.
conference I just left from in Philly,
Hmm. Okay.
and people were talking about risk risk and GRC,
Hmm.
and talking about the government and talking about opportunities. And I was saying it really depends on the market that you're in, like where you live, in order to determine the amount of opportunities that you can have in that type of career field. Wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Now, Larry, chime in on that in the chat. That you're probably 80% correct on that. I think the hidden gem on that is I do a lot of federal work, but I work for private
Hmm.
company as consultant, and most of that you can do remotely. so
Hmm.
so I think that's probably a little differently. But on the Fed side, like Larry's at, I think they're forcing people to come into the office. And two is
Yeah.
the federal space. There is a lot of opportunity because there's a lot of different agencies, and most federal agencies, like if you do a HIPAA and high trust, right, that's hospitals. I do a lot of IRS work, Pub 1075. We talk about FedRamp, FISMA, IRS, FedRamp. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities. That I think a thing that gets a lot of people is if your credit's messed up, the first thing they do is a financial background.
Hmm.
So if you
You
don't
know,
have that together,
mm,
you have problems. But I think there's until this regime came in, I would say there was a lot more opportunities. This regime cut a lot of tech jobs. Go ahead. What was you gonna say, B2B?
yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. I mean, because you see so many people getting laid off right now, but then also, when I say like the market, I'm talking about because the audience who I was speaking with, there were some people who were students trying to get in to it, and I'm like, okay, well, you may have to go through a few more steps
Oh
before
yeah.
you get to that point to where you could go into GRC and stuff like that, right? Like, and also I think we talked about this before, was which was the certifications. All
Mm-hmm.
right, like like I know, in certain positions you have to have like a security plus in order for you to be able to get into government work. Um,
100%. No, that's
and
true.
then yeah, and then it's like, okay, well, you get the security plus, but then also you may still have a hard time getting that first role without any experience.
Oh,
So
100%. 100%.
so it may be good.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so I was like, in it, so it's like where you live, like, yeah, of course there are remote positions, but it's a lot of competition for those remote positions right now.
Yep, those are senior
uh
positions too. Go ahead. Those are
Yeah,
mostly
those are
senior
more
positions.
senior, yeah, more senior positions. And then also, if you don't have a certification and you're still a student working on it, it's going to take you a little bit more time to get to that point. So it's kind of hard to find like those entry level opportunities for you to be able to get into like a GRC or cybersecurity role.
Yeah. Can you see my screen, B2B?
Yeah, I see it frequently asked questions.
No, no, look at the bottom. My man Larry, he works for
Oh,
the
okay.
Fed. He said the federal GS is still currently downsizing after an already severely downsizing. He works
Yeah.
at one of the contracting opportunities still remain, but competition is very high. You have to be getting be willing to go where the work is as a remote worker. It's hard to come by. Again, it's very competitive. No, 100%.
Hmm.
Um, the hidden gem I would tell people, but you got to go in offices. Go work for the state. Um, the pay's not as good, but they have a lot of the good technology, and a lot of people will forget about because I'm in the capital, Indiana. I think you kind of by the capital in ATL, so those usually
Yeah.
have large state agencies. Like I work for the Department of Revenue with state taxes. Usually they have health and hospital in each state. They have a whole IoT that handles the infrastructure for the state as a shared responsibility. They will handle all that setup. So I think a state is a hidden gem, and the state usually starving for talent. A lot of times they train younger people to get in there. Now I need to
Hmm.
check, like Larry said, it might be done took a hit. I haven't checked on it in a while.
I saw this video earlier today. It was on YouTube, and they said that they're looking historically for solutions to our competitive problem. To where it used to be like, let's say you had a blacksmith that would take on a trainee or an apprentice,
Mm-hmm.
but the family had to pay for the blacksmith to be able to take on that apprentice just so
Mm-hmm.
that way they can gain those skills. Now
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about potentially, um like if a company does not find, like, they have an entry level position, a lot of the time could be, you can use AI or generative AI to be able to do a lot of the grunt work, or
Mm-hmm.
like the entry level work. But you could have some sort of program where people try to, even though I know that you don't provide any value, but I understand it's an investment into talent that may be loyal to a company. So they may stay at a company for, like, let's say 10 years or something like that for their career. I don't know if that's something that's, gonna happen right now or anything, but that's just one of those things they were talking about, as we see the competitive nature of this current job market.
Yeah, they were kind of doing that. What they would do is um, they would put you on, and if they train you in something or help you get certifications, you had to say you would stay and work there for 2 or 3 years, and if you left, you had to pay those certs back. So I think we've been kind of doing a little of that
Hmm.
at that level. No, that's
Yeah.
that's an interesting kind of take, and I think we were kind of doing that. The people we're paying was the state were putting people in these trainee programs, and I think they were giving tax abatements to companies that would take some of these trainees on and put them in their staff. So I think we were already kind of doing that. Instead of the family paying, the state was paying, right? Because they would say,
Right.
"We want you to train these people." They have some kind of program or things to help people get in there.
Yep. Exactly. And then, it's kind of, it's rough out here, man, for these young people. Because I mean, you have the people right now, because you have your senior leadership, and then you have like the people who are like kind of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say, like you have a company or something like that that has um a staff that's in their late 40s, early 50s. If you don't hire any or very little newer people, they won't really get replaced. And in like 15 years, 16 years, they may be ready to retire, right? Like when they hit their 60s, this might be time for them to go ahead and retire.
They should. The problem is, and double check me is, and I'm in that Gen X. The boomers were the last one with pensions. Gen
Hmm.
X is getting towed up because they were getting laid off and they were using their pension to live on. So there's probably a high percentage of those people can't afford to retire. Then two
Yep.
is like Social Security. It seems like government that spent most of that. So you're gonna get some, but it's not gonna be at the same level people before. So I think there's a large contingency of people that can't retire. I'm at the point where I probably could at 65, but I'm like, why? I don't work hard. I need my medical benefits. I'm probably trying to work to 70, man. I just take my
Hmm.
vacations. But I don't know. I just been kind of throwing it around with that
Yep.
thought pattern.
Yeah. I saw an article that said that the US right now has more unemployed people than there are available jobs to work.
I saw
And
that too. I saw that.
yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm like, wow, that's it's gonna be kind of hard for them to be able to fill in all those roles. You know, not everybody's looking for a job per se, but you know, it's pretty tough to be able to find those opportunities right now because so many people got laid off from the government. Like I think
Oh yeah,
I saw this one article that said like um I forgot how much it was. It was like 800,000 or something like that. People got laid off from the government, but
yeah.
that
I
was
thought it
like a
was
few months ago.
I thought it
That was
was
like a
even
month ago.
million, but go. Yeah, go ahead. I thought it was even million, but go ahead. It's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe 800 million. Well, that's a lot of people when you think about it. I don't know about 800
No,
million.
not man. No, it was 800,000, but I thought it was a million
Yeah.
people got laid off. But
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's close, right?
yeah, yeah, it's right
So,
there.
yeah, it's a lot of people got laid off, man.
Oh,
And then all those positions, you know, if they're not, it's not like they're just going to hire them right back.
oh, those people ain't never coming back, man.
Yeah, man. So
Those
a
people
million
ain't
people into the market right now.
never.
They just said that air traffic controllers were leaving because they weren't getting paid. I don't know if the
No.
government's back open yet or not because they said that they were going to be open.
Well, that was one house. I thought the Congress came in or the House. One of them passed, but I think the other branch needs to vote on it too and pass it. So it's almost
Hmm.
open. So, but yeah, that was crazy because they showed Atlanta, man. The line was out the door for TSA. I'm like, man, I'm glad I ain't fine. And during Thanksgiving, I'm like, oh man, if that goes to
Oh yeah,
Thanksgiving, it's gonna be crazy.
it impacted me because my flight got canceled because of the air
Yeah.
traffic controllers. I was like, I was in Philly. I was like, okay, I done my speech and everything. It's time for me to get back home. They canceled my flight on Delta. I said, okay, yeah, I need to go ahead. I had to switch my flight. It cost me more money, but I had to switch my flight to Frontier.
Okay. Okay.
But I was
Yeah,
able to make it
Frontier,
back,
sure.
but I was like, man,
Yeah, because I guess the government told them they had to cut 10% of their flights or something.
yeah,
Um,
for that
it-
date specifically, it
yeah,
was
but they was
crazy.
gonna go forward because they didn't have enough air traffic controllers, so they were gonna try to cut it. So it's so now, but once again, I'm glad it got over with, and
Hmm.
so
Yeah, I agree with what Larry just said. He's talking about
I'm great. Sure, hold
data
tight, hold tight.
centers. Okay.
Yeah, I'm about to show it. Larry, how been? Oh, my man. What is he? At? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Security expert said he's seen lower contract. I have too. Lower contracting rates and many more unemployed computer folks out there now. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Then Larry said he had a couple buddies who had a couple interviews but no callbacks. They ended up picking an environmental control specialist for Microsoft. So yeah, it's getting crazy out here. They're essentially made this position within Microsoft data centers in Virginia. I told them sometimes take the kind of job and get an opportunity you need to start out. Nah, facts, man. Sometimes you got to get in where you fit in, man. So, and he said here the data centers, networking data seem to be amongst the most available roles. Data centers are popping up all over. Yeah, I seen that. We were actually fighting data centers in Indiana, but yeah, data centers are spinning up.
Yep.
But no, you're right with those data centers. So I'm hoping the
Hmm.
GRC gonna get to work because, like you said, they got to be FedRamp approved. So man, they're gonna need
Oh
some
yeah.
internal assessments in the data center. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I see a lot of people putting up. I saw this lady putting up signs saying no more data centers, and they keep taking it down. In my
Oh yeah,
like not too far from my neighborhood, they I don't know who it is who takes down the signs that she puts up, but she put them up almost every week.
yeah. My neighbor, they actually went to a Google was starting a data center in some small county. My neighbors live nowhere near it, but they so against data center, poison the water and all that stuff. So they rolled
Hmm.
up. It was overflow. It was at the state capitol. They thought it would be a 300-seat room. They said 700 people showed up, man, just to
Hmm.
block the
Yeah,
data center, man. So, and they blocked it. So I guess Google pulled it, and they're gonna bring it back later. So.
and see, this is another reason why like AI is not gonna take over everything because people just gonna say, nah, we don't want more data centers, and then they won't be able to have them as many resources to be able to run their AI models and stuff like that
Well, I think
because it's expensive.
It is, but what I think is going to happen is there's a lot of poor states, so they're going to take those data centers and get that tax money. So I think,
Yeah.
and two, I think Moore's law. Every 2 years the chips get better and better, so I don't think you're gonna need as many. But I could be
Mm-hmm.
wrong because they build them like water. So the thing that really scared me, and I did a video. I think you shut up to that. They starting up nuclear power plants to power to power some of the bigger data centers. I'm like, man, that is crazy.
Yeah, I remember seeing it was Google. And actually, I
Yeah.
talked to one of the ladies who's over data centers at Google.
Mm-hmm.
She's like one of the directors, um, and just kind of got her opinion on it. And they say, yeah, they trying to build up a lot. That's one of that's what they're focused on right now, especially because AI is like an AI arms race, is what they said. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
right
Yeah. Yeah.
now, for the companies themselves, they haven't seen like the return on investment for it just yet. It's one of those things where many years down the line, they expect to receive like some money back from the investments into AI, because like OpenAI said that they're just losing money. Like they just completely.
Oh yeah. Say that again, B2B. I don't know if you fading out. I'm fading out. Oh, you there, B2B? Oh, he's still there.
Yeah.
I hear you again. Say it again, BB. You fade out. I don't know if that was me or you.
PBL, can you hear me?
I can now. I can now.
Oh man.
Maybe not. Maybe not. You kind of fading out. It looked like you on mute. I don't know if you moving around. I don't know if it's me. Oh, see if he comes back. Let's see. Technology's been very bad due to negative opinion. Oh, yeah, facts, facts. Nah, facts, man. I keep calling it Elysium. If you ever seen Elysium, I keep calling it Elysium. So let's keep putting your question in. We'll see if B2B comes back. We always tend to get knocked off. So I don't know if it's me or him. Once again, join the conversation. Larry and security expert dropping gems. It's crazy hard out here. So we're gonna see what the play is gonna be. I want to appreciate everybody for joining. Let's see. No, I don't know. Let's see. Oh, it's cool. B2B. It's all cool. No worries. Did his phone was heating up, man. He probably on that Google Pixel. Nah, I'm just bullshit. Shout out to Ty. I want to appreciate everybody. Let's see, Silicon Valley. Oh no, facts. Oh no, I take that back, Larry. That is incorrect. That is incorrect, Larry. They are because here I'm gonna show it one more time. We showed it last week. What we gonna show? We're gonna show it real quick. Let's show it. Where is it at? Where's the big dog at? There, oh, that's a video. I don't want to show the video. Oh, is that a video? Yeah, we're gonna block the video from playing. The reason why, Larry, I think that's incorrect, and we're gonna shut it down. I can get my big head off of the screen. We showed this last week. This is why they gonna comply with the NIST document, Larry. Pentagon split $9 billion cloud contract between Oracle, Amazon, and Microsoft. So to get that $9 billion with the big B, Larry, we gonna follow that NIST or whatever, right? So shout out to the government. So long story short, it's an RFP. So if any of those federal agencies that can request some of the $9 billion, they can deal with these 4 cloud vendors. So all of them guys are following this FedRamp 20X, CMC, HIPAA High Trust, because they want that $9 billion, Larry, with the big B, not the little B. We're gonna get the big B. Nah, but shout out to my man, Larry. So yeah, they're gonna follow that 1,000 pages. That's why when we were looking at that FedRamp, we saw Amazon Azure data centers had that FedRamp package completed because they trying to get some of that $9 billion with a big B. But hell, that was 2022. They might have spun. They might have got it. I think it was 10 years and $9 billion. How long was it? Let's see. I know it was a multi-year. It was the Joint Warfighter Cloud Capability. 2028. They got 3 more years to get that $9 billion. So, Larry, we are following this /FedRamp 20X to get the money. Shout out to $9 billion for. So that's why when we looked in that FedRamp package, they all in there because they trying to get some of that $9 billion with a big boy B. We got people starving in the world, but we got $9 billion for cloud services. So once again, I want to appreciate everybody. Shout out to my man B2B for joining me. Definitely go check out his channel. I'm always over there bothering him, in his Discord, checking on him. So I'm usually peeking out there in the cybersecurity streets once again. So I have to disagree with Larry. We trying to get that $9 billion. So they're gonna follow that NIST documentation. You see it right there. I got it highlighted at the top of the page. $9 billion runs until 2028. So they trying to get as much as that billion because they got to, make that money for their shareholders. Shareholder supremacy. But once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. So that's one reason we talk NIST, FedRAMP, and that federal compliance because we trying to get a small piece of the $9 billion pie. It's out there, but like Larry said, this regime is kind of cutting back, laying people off. This is really a bad job market, and I think I'm gonna be in it in a minute. So we gonna see. Once again, I'll be out in these cybersecurity streets. Come check me out Friday at Lunch and Learn. I gotta figure out what I'm gonna talk about, but we trying to go hard and get back on our Lunch and Learn. Shout out to my man once again before the billions. He was like me. He got demonetized, but now he's back in the game. PBO got to get his monetization back up to get back in the game. So trying to go live a little more. I think I need 1,400 hours. So, I might do it before the billions. I might do a 10-hour live stream. try to give me a quick 1,000. Shout out to them. He was the first one I saw do that, though. I try to support him. He was doing, I think he did a 24-hour live stream or something, but now shout out to the young guys. People too old to do that. He might do a 10-hour, though. Just talk about this and read the NIST documents. But once again, I appreciate it. Messing with my man, Larry. We got to get to $9 billion. I appreciate you, Larry. Appreciate you, Jeffrey Johnson. Appreciate you, security expert. I'm out. Everybody have a good night. Appreciate you for joining me. You can see me in these cybersecurity streets. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. Check me out noon lunchtime. We're gonna do some lunch and learn. I gotta figure out what we're gonna talk about though. It'll be good. You know, we're gonna be on some NIST, AWS, risk assessment. So that's probably usually what I talk about